Okay, so Simbat wrote not ages ago, but at our last session, she goes, can we do a goal setting session? Because we all get in our own ways, right? Funny, I was just talking about the site, right? Like, we get on our own way. So I thought, yes, let's do goal setting. So we sat with Caitlin and we talked about goal setting. And her and I kind of have this thing. We don't like, well, we love goal setting, but we just don't like the term goal setting. We look at it a little bit differently. For the traditional goal setting, you can actually go in the group. I did like a really nice goal setting sort of session that I do quarterly, and it's wonderful, but this is not it. So I am going to explain it in terms of, because it's something we can all understand as single mothers. Let's just think money, because it's easy. I've said it before and I will keep saying it again. Money is not the goal, right? We all say we want money, but the goal, I always say, is to become the kind of woman who makes money, right? You see these messages, these doom and gloom messages where people are complaining and they're desperate and they're saying all of these horrible things. And, you know, all I think, like, number one, I connect with that person because I was that person. All of us at some point in our lives were that person. So we have empathy and we hold space for that person. So I'm not knocking that at all, right? We're all there. And I still go there once a month. So just full disclosure, I'm still there. But all I can think when I read that, I'm like, the goal for you is not to make money. You'll never make money. You're going to maybe get another 4th, 5th minimum wage paying job with that sort of, you know, view. You need to become someone who makes money, right? You have to become the woman. That's your only goal, right? Now, how do you become someone who makes money? Well, you have to start thinking, how does someone with money feel? Okay? And if any of you are in the chat, write down, how does someone with money feel? I have one word in my head, and that word is freedom, right? We want freedom from bills. We want freedom to do what we want. Be with secure. I love it, right? Secure, that's different too. I like that. And actually this was in my design thinking course. I'm going to go on a tangent because I think it's important. In my design thinking course with IDEO, we had to conduct interviews, right? A lot of it is coming up with insights, and they teach you how to talk to people so that you get these insights and ideas from people that are actually having the problem, as opposed to you trying to like meddle. And one of the things, money was obviously a big one of the problems, and I wouldn't expect it, but that's all I would hear is safety. I'm not going to be abused anymore. I'm not going to, like, all of these crazy things. So anyways, the whole point of the story is that we are not looking for money. We are looking for freedom. We're looking for opportunities. Exactly. We're looking for security. We're looking for all these things. Now, you can feel that ahead of the experience. You can feel freedom. You can feel security without having money, right? It's you know, easy to say, but the more we practice it, the easier it becomes. So imagine, okay, you want this feeling of freedom, right? You want to be able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. You want to buy the shoes. You want to go to the restaurant. You want to take the vacation. So you're in that space, right? Well, what kind of things does that person do? What kind of decisions does that person make, right? Very different from someone who's operating in lack all the time, right? And when you start practicing that identity, start practicing that feeling of abundance, right? Feeling of security and freedom and opportunities and all these things, little synchronicities just start happening, right? And we'll talk about why in a little bit. But you start to get proof, right? It's that reticular activating system in the brain, right? When you buy the red car, you start to see red cars everywhere. Well, it's not because the red cars have suddenly appeared. It's because you're now conscious of it, because your brain thinks it's important. So the more we practice something, the more we think of something, the more we feel freedom, right? Our brain is now open to all these instances in our life when things that will provide us freedom start showing up, right? So to that, I'm going to use myself as an example for a little bit, and I'm sure none of you can relate to this. And it's that I call it the single mom experience, right? Lack of time, lack of money, lack of energy, right? We don't know what this feels like, right? So the reason I say this is, like, I had a big awakening one day, and I remember when enough was enough, right? I woke up and I realized that everything in my life was perpetuating this state of lack, right? So what I did was I looked at literally everything in my life. I looked at what I did when I felt this way. I looked at the anger, you know, the anger with the X. Then we go into this like stew place. Then we feel sick. Then we feel angry. Then what did we do? I ate. That's what I would do, right? Because you feel lonely and you start doing things that are incongruent with the person you want to be. So I kind of took a step back and I started looking at those things that I did. And I'm like, this isn't who I want to be. So I became very conscious of those little things. And I started separating from that, right? So I started separating from that identity of lack and I started dismantling it. And then that's what, Cassia, we were talking about earlier, right? When that starts happening, you start losing everything in your life that perpetuates that problem. I started getting really disturbed with the things in my life that weren't, or that were in that sort of lack state of mind, right? But that as I was growing into that freedom, into that growth, into the I want more in my life, I started feeling really discontent with my job, right? So I knew I had to leave my job. Relationships in my life started, falling apart. I started fighting with my mother, funny enough. Like that never happens, more than usual, right? So we talk about this being, again, this caterpillar analogy. It's this messy part, this part where we just don't feel right, and that's okay, right? We want to get comfortable with that because that's a space where you start to create out of, right? That painful liquefying of the caterpillar, right? That caterpillar is now potential to become a butterfly, again, to use that overused metaphor a million times. But that's essentially what we're doing when we're changing our personality. And that's what we're actually doing. We are changing who we are, right? So again, I just want you to think of that space. We're going to hit on it in today's meditation too. From who we are to who we're becoming, there's an emptiness there. And that can make a lot of us feel uncomfortable. But just notice that discomfort and feel into it. Another funny, well, it's not really a funny story, but I love this analogy and I wanted to teach it with you or talk about it with you. And it's, if any of you have heard of Joe Dispenza, his work really, really helped me during some of the toughest times in my life. He does a lot about this sort of mental rehearsal and getting into the brain and, quantum physics meets, like, it's very, very spiritual and scientific and great. But anyways, this is one of his analogies and it's so simple and it makes so much sense. And he goes, when you feel stuck in life and nothing's changing and you get kind of frustrated, and yet you wake up in the morning, you get out of bed on the same side that you always get out of, you think in your head, I gotta pee. So you go to the washroom, you sit down on the toilet the same way that you always do, then you brush your teeth the same way that you always do with the same hand, and then you think, I should probably make my coffee. And then you walk over to the coffee machine and you make the coffee with the same press of a finger that you always do, and you make it, and then you drink it the same way, and then you get in your car, and then you go to work, and you see the same people that you see every day, and you complain, and you see everything that you don't like, and all of these things. You get into your car, you come home, you watch TV, you feel bad that you haven't accomplished anything, you go to bed, and you wake up the next day. And you wonder why things aren't changing. Life isn't changing because you're not changing. Right? So the whole idea of this is we need to step out of our current reality, right? And step into a different reality where we're literally a different person, a different personality, making different decisions. And as simple as I can, that's why I wanted to use that single mom, the trifecta analogy. I'm making decisions out of lack. This person is making decisions out of lack. This person is making decisions out of excitement and growth and abundance and, prosperity and feeling like all of her needs are met. They are making different choices. Those different choices that they make, this one sucks, right? That's the lack one. This one is taking you to the goals that you want to achieve. So that's why in a roundabout way, yes, I want to think of the goal, but you want to think of not just the goal, but you want to think of who you have to become to achieve that goal. How does that person feel? What kind of decisions does that person make to achieve that goal? And we're going to do that in meditation, right? Essentially, sort of ish. Yep. You're going to take us through a really fun experience. And then just one note before I give Caitlin over to you. You over to Caitlin? Give Caitlin over to you. One or the other, you know what I mean. It's
either way.
Either way. I want to talk about mental rehearsal. So I know you've all probably heard of, the visualization that the athletes do, right? Simone Biles is very vocal about how she goes over her routines over and over and over in her head. Steph Curry is shooting 3-point shots in his head, right? Before he goes to sleep, he's like, I have to do 1,000 before I go to sleep. And he visualizes how it leaves his fingers and how he, whatever. I don't know. Kieran would know how to do that better than I do. But this is the power of mental rehearsal, right? There's a study that, you know, they took people to play the piano and they taught them a piece, and there was three groups. The first group just didn't practice. The second group just did the rehearsal in their mind. They watched the video and they practiced it in their mind, and the third group actually practiced. There was very little difference between the mind and the ones that actually practiced. Caitlin and I, you were talking about the muscles, right? You hear people like imagining that they're lifting weights and their muscles are actually growing, right? So this isn't woo-woo, this is real, right? And basically what this is teaching us is that our thinking, our thoughts control the external environment. It controls our brain, right? They're literally changing the structures inside of the brain. So when we rehearse new ways of being, again, all in a roundabout way to say, when we rehearse these new ways of being, when we rehearse who we want to be, and it could be something simple as like, I'm connecting with the part of me that wants to lose 10 pounds, or on the other extreme, I'm connecting to the part of me who wants to be at the Toronto International Film Festival accepting her award for the best film, and you know what I mean, winning an Oscar. Like, it could be anything. But you want to ask, how does she talk? How does she walk? What decisions does she make? What does she think? How does she feel? What does she believe? And then connect with that. And the more you can connect with that person, you stop being you who thinks of that person, you start becoming that person, right? And then you look around and you're like, oh, wait a second. Things are actually how I dream them to be. You know, to sound, again, super whatever. My friend Lynn was over yesterday and we were talking about, and I think Katya too, I talked to you about, you know, just keep that image of us on a yacht in Portofino. You know what I mean? Like, hold that thought in your head. And the yacht in Portofino was like, it's just something I say because it's like that image of like, you know, opulence and being free. But I kid you not, I took my kid to Portugal 2 years ago, and we rented a very little yacht. It was a little yacht, but it was a yacht nonetheless. And we rented it, and I'm lying there crying. I'm going like, I dreamed this into life, right? So it's real. And that's all I'm gonna say. So Caitlin, take it away, switch seats with me.
Sure.
And we're gonna get, one of the other moms is here with us too. I'm gonna do it with you, the hypnosis, so you might see us behind, sleeping, dreaming.